I walked into my son's nursery at 3 a.m. and found her sitting in the rocking chair with my 6-month-old son pressed against her bare chest, feeding him from her own body. Amara Williams, the nanny I'd hired 6 months ago and barely spoken 10 words to. The woman whose name I could barely remember. And my hand went to the gun at my waist. Instinct. 20 years of solving problems with violence. Because in my world, when someone crosses a line this big, there's only one response. Destroy them. But then I saw her face in the moonlight. Tears streaming down her dark skin. Lips moving in a whispered prayer. And my son, the child who'd been screaming for 3 straight hours, who wouldn't take a bottle, who the pediatrician said was failing to thrive, was finally quiet, finally peaceful, finally drinking, finally alive. Her eyes met mine across the dark room. Pure terror flooded her face. She knew what I was, knew what I was capable of, knew my hand was on my gun. "Please," she whispered, voice breaking, body trembling. "Please don't take him from me. I know this is wrong. I know I crossed every line. But he was starving and I couldn't watch him die." And that's when I realized this woman I'd been ignoring for 6 months, this stranger I'd treated like furniture, had just saved my son's life. Let me tell you how a man who'd killed 17 people with his bare hands learned that sometimes the greatest act of violence is doing nothing at all. Hit that like button right now because this story is going to destroy you in ways you can't prepare for. Subscribe to Mafia Romance Hub for more emotional mafia stories that prove even monsters can be saved. Now let me show you how we got here. My name is Vincent Kane, and 6 months ago my wife died giving birth to our son. Gabriella, 28 years old. The only woman I'd ever loved. The only person who'd ever seen past the monster everyone else saw. We'd been trying for a baby for 3 years. Fertility treatments, specialists, prayers. And finally she got pregnant. The pregnancy was perfect. Healthy baby boy growing right on schedule. We painted the nursery together, argued about names, planned our future. And then at 37 weeks during a routine checkup, her blood pressure spiked. Preeclampsia, life-threatening, emergency C-section. They pulled our son out. 7 pounds, 2 ounces. Perfect. Screaming. Alive. And then the monitors started beeping. Gabriella's blood pressure dropped. Doctors started shouting. Nurses running. Someone pushed me out of the operating room. I stood in the hallway holding our newborn son, watching through the window as they tried to save my wife. Catastrophic hemorrhage. She bled out in 14 minutes. 14 minutes from alive to gone. The love of my life died while I held the child we'd created together. And when they finally let me back in that room, I had to choose which one to hold. My dead wife or my screaming son. I chose her. I laid our son in the hospital bassinet and I held Gabriella's body until it went cold. Felt her warmth fade. Felt her slip away. And I haven't forgiven him for it since. I know that makes me a monster. I know it's not his fault. But every time I look at my son, I see what loving someone cost me. So I stopped looking. Hired the best nannies money could buy to keep him alive while I pretended he didn't exist. 5 of them quit in 3 months. Said he was too difficult. Said I was too distant. Said they couldn't work in a house that felt like a tomb. The 6th nanny, I didn't even interview. My head of security Marco brought me her file at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday. "Boss, we need a new nanny. The last one quit this morning. Didn't even give notice. Just left. I didn't look up from my paperwork. Blood money from a weapons deal. Fine. Hire someone. I already did. She starts tonight. Just need you to sign off on the background check." He slid the folder across my desk. I glanced at it. Professional resume. Childcare certifications. Clean background. References from 3 families. And a photo. A black woman, maybe mid-20s, with natural hair pulled back in a neat bun, warm brown eyes, and a soft smile that looked out of place in the clinical employee photo. Something about her face made me pause. Kind, real, alive in a way nothing in my world was anymore. "Name?" I asked. "Amara Williams, 26. Degree in early childhood development from Northwestern. 7 years of nanny experience. Specializes in difficult cases, colicky babies, preemies, failure to thrive situations, special needs. Came highly recommended by the Carmichael family on the north side. I signed the paperwork without reading the details. She starts tonight? Yes, boss. Your son's been with the temp agency nurse all day, but she leaves at 6. Amara can be here by 7. Fine. Make sure she knows the rules. No disturbing me unless it's a life-threatening emergency. She handles everything. Feedings, diapers, doctor appointments, everything. I don't want reports, updates, or questions. She does her job, stays out of my way, gets paid extremely well for her silence. Marco hesitated. Boss, don't you want to meet her first? Interview her? She's going to be alone with your son 16 hours a day. No. If you vetted her, that's enough. Just make sure she can handle a screaming infant and doesn't quit like the last 5. He nodded and left. And that's how Amara Williams entered my life. Without ceremony. Without introduction. Without me even caring enough to look at her face beyond a photo. Just another employee in a house full of people I paid to keep my world running while I avoided dealing with any of it. I didn't meet her that first night, or the second, or the 10th. I'd hear her sometimes, moving through the house like a ghost. Soft footsteps on the stairs at dawn. Gentle humming coming. From the nursery at midnight. The sound of my son crying less and less frequently as the days passed. But I never went in. Never checked. Never asked how things were going. As long as he was alive and she wasn't bothering me, that was enough. My men noticed, though. Marco mentioned it once, carefully, 3 weeks after she'd started. Boss, the new nanny. She's different from the others. Your son's doing better. Eating more. Sleeping longer. Gaining weight. The pediatrician called yesterday with his 1-month update. Said whatever we changed is working. You should see. I don't need to see anything. Is she doing her job? Yes, sir, but... Then we're done here. He didn't bring it up again. But I'd catch my guards talking sometimes when they thought I wasn't listening. Saying she was incredible with the baby. Patient beyond measure. Kind. That she sang to him in the middle of the night when he was fussy. That she turned down every single day off to stay with him when he had a cold. That she treated him like he was her own flesh and blood. That the house felt different with her in it. Less like a mausoleum. More like a home. I told myself I didn't care. She was paid to care. That's what nannies do. That's what I paid her for. But somewhere deep down, in a part of me I'd buried the day Gabriella died, something stirred. Curiosity, maybe. Or guilt. Or the faint echo of the man I used to be before grief turned me into this. I pushed it down. Went back to work. Back to violence. Back to being the man who didn't need anyone or anything. 2 months into her employment, I saw her for the first time. Really saw her. Not just a photo in a file or a shadow moving through my house. Wrong. I came home at 2 a.m. from a business meeting that had gone spectacularly wrong. Blood on my white dress shirt from a man who'd thought he could steal from me. Bruised knuckles from teaching him otherwise. Split lip from the one punch he'd managed to land before my men pulled him off me. The kind of night that reminded me why people crossed the street when they saw me coming. Why grown men stammered when I spoke to them. Why I'd built an empire on fear. I headed straight for my study, planning to pour 3 fingers of bourbon and sit in the dark until the adrenaline faded and I could sleep without seeing his face. But as I passed the nursery on my way down the hall, I heard singing. Soft. Melodic. A lullaby I didn't recognize, but that made something in my chest ache. I stopped. The door was cracked open about 6 inches. Just enough to see inside without being seen. She was standing by the floor-to-ceiling window that overlooked the garden. My son in her arms, swaying gently side to side in a rhythm that looked ancient. Timeless. The moonlight caught her profile through the glass. She was younger than I'd realized from the photo. Mid-20s, yes, but with a face that held both youth and something older. Wisdom, maybe, or sadness. Beautiful in a way that wasn't trying to be noticed. Natural. Real. No makeup at 2 a.m. Hair in a simple wrap. Wearing pajama pants and an oversized northwestern sweatshirt. And the way she held him, like he was made of starlight and dreams. Like he was the most precious thing in the universe. Like he wasn't the reminder of death that I saw every time I looked at him. "You're going to do amazing things," she whispered to him, voice thick with emotion. "You're going to be strong and kind and so loved. I promise you, sweet boy. Your mama's watching over you from heaven. She's so proud of you already. And one day your daddy's going to see what I see. How perfect you are. How much joy you bring just by existing. How your smile could light up the whole world. Just give him time, baby. Just give him time to heal. He loves you so much. He just doesn't know how to show it yet." Her voice cracked on the last word. She was crying. Silent tears streaming down her dark skin in the moonlight. For my son. For me. For Gabriella. For all of us. This stranger was crying for my broken family at 2 a.m. while holding my child and whispering promises she had no reason to believe would come true. And something inside me, something I thought died on an operating table 6 months ago, felt shame. I should have walked away. Should have gone to my study and pretended I'd never seen it. Should have maintained the distance I'd worked so hard to build. But I stood there frozen in the hallway with blood on my shirt and violence in my veins, watching this woman comfort my child with more tenderness than I'd shown him since the day he was born. Watching her give him what I couldn't. Hope, love, the belief that he mattered. After she finally got him to sleep and laid him gently in his crib, she stood there for a long moment just watching him breathe. Her hand on his tiny chest, tears still falling. "I've got you," she whispered so quietly I almost didn't hear it. "I know I'm not your mama. I know I can't replace her. But I've got you, sweet boy. Promise. You're not alone." Then she kissed her fingertips and pressed them gently to his forehead, turned off the lamp, and walked toward the door. I backed into the shadows, heart hammering like I was 16 years old instead of a man who'd orchestrated dozens of killings. She passed within 3 feet of me, wiping her eyes, never knowing I was there. And I stood in that dark hallway for 20 minutes after she'd gone, staring at the nursery door, feeling something I hadn't felt in 6 months. The urge to go inside, to look at my son, to try. I started paying attention after that. Not obviously. I didn't suddenly become father of the year or start having conversations with her. But I watched. Through security cameras I'd installed throughout the house for protection but now used to spy on my own employee. Through cracked doors when I'd happened to walk by the nursery at specific times. Through the reports Marco gave me that I'd always ignored before but now read carefully. She was with my son 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. Arrived at 6 a.m. Left at 10 p.m. Never complained. Never asked for time off. When Marco asked why she kept declining her guaranteed 2 days off per week, she'd smiled and said, "I have nowhere else to be, and he needs consistency. I'd rather be here." She read to him constantly. Real books, not just children's stories. Poetry by Langston Hughes and Maya Angelou. Shakespeare's sonnets in a voice that made them sound like lullabies. Her own childhood favorites, The Velveteen Rabbit, Where the Wild Things Are, Goodnight Moon. "Words matter, sweet boy," I heard her say once through the camera feed. "Even if you don't understand them yet, they're shaping your world, making you feel safe, loved, seen." She played music for him. Jazz, classical, old soul from the 60s and 70s. Sang along in a voice that was better than it had any right to be. Aretha Franklin, Etta James, Nina Simone. Songs about heartbreak and hope and holding on when everything falls apart. She talked to him constantly, narrating everything she did like he was the most fascinating audience in the world. "Now we're going to change your diaper, sweet boy. I know, the wipes are cold. I'm sorry, baby. I'll be quick, I promise. There we go. Much better, right? Oh, you're giving me that look. That's your daddy's look. Stubborn. Beautiful. Perfect." Like he could understand every word. Like his gurgles and coos were profound responses. Like he mattered more than anything. And he responded to her in ways he'd never responded to the other nannies. My son, who'd been labeled difficult and colicky and failure to thrive by 5 different professionals, was calm with her, happy, thriving. The pediatrician noticed at his 6-month checkup and called me personally. Mr. Kane, I don't know what you're doing differently, but keep doing it. Your son has gained 3 pounds in the last 2 months. His development is right on track. Motor skills excellent. Social engagement appropriate. Whatever changed 4 months ago, it's working miracles. He's a completely different baby. I knew what changed. Her. Amara Williams. The woman I'd hired without meeting and then ignored for 4 months while she saved my son. But I still didn't talk to her. Didn't thank her. Didn't acknowledge that she was the reason my house felt less like a tomb and more like something that might one day be a home again. Because acknowledging it meant admitting I'd failed as a father. That I'd abandoned my son when he needed me most. That I'd let grief turn me into exactly the kind of man I'd sworn I'd never be when I held him for the first time in that hospital. Cold, distant, absent, just like my own father had been. So I stayed in my study, ran my empire, made my money, hurt the people who needed hurting, pretended everything was fine. And she kept showing up every single day at 6 a.m. with a smile for my son and silence for me. Kept loving a child who wasn't hers. Kept asking for nothing in return except the privilege of being there. Until the night everything changed. Until I walked into that nursery at 3 a.m. and found her feeding him from her body. Let me tell you exactly what happened that night. Because what I saw changed everything I thought I knew about strength, sacrifice, and love. It started at midnight. I was in my study going over financial reports from our operations in Miami when I heard it through the baby monitor I'd started keeping on my desk. My son screaming, not fussing, not the normal crying that babies do. Full-throated, desperate, terrified screaming that made every muscle in my body tense. The kind of sound that triggers something primal in a parent's brain. Danger, pain, help. I pulled up the nursery camera on my laptop. Amara was pacing the room with him, bouncing him gently, trying everything in her considerable arsenal. She'd give him the bottle. He'd latch for maybe 10 seconds, suck desperately, then suddenly scream and push it away like it was burning him. Arch his back, flail his tiny fists, cry so hard he'd choke. This went on for an hour. Then, too, I watched her try different bottles, different formulas, different positions. Warm milk, cool milk. She was singing to him, rocking him, walking him by the window where he usually calmed down. Nothing worked. Nothing even helped. I could see her getting more worried with each passing minute. More frantic. The professional calm she always maintained starting to crack under the weight of his suffering. At 2:15 a.m., she pulled out her phone with shaking hands and called the pediatrician's emergency line. Put it on speaker so she could keep walking with him. This is Amara Williams calling about Vincent Kane Jr. He won't eat. He's been refusing the bottle for 3 days now, and tonight it's gotten much worse. I've tried different formulas, different bottles, different temperatures, everything. Nothing works. He'll take maybe an ounce over 2 hours and then scream like it's hurting him. I don't know what to do. The doctor on call, an older woman who sounded exhausted, asked detailed questions. What formula? How many ounces? Wet diapers? Temperature? Color of his skin? Any vomiting? Any blood in his stool? Amara answered everything precisely, professionally, but I could hear the fear underneath. It sounds like he might be developing an aversion to the bottle, the doctor said finally. Or the reflux we discussed at his last appointment could be getting worse. Sometimes babies do this, associate feeding with pain and start refusing. Can you bring him to the clinic first thing tomorrow morning? We'll run some tests. Yes, absolutely. But what do I do now? Amara's voice cracked. He's starving. He hasn't kept down more than 2 ounces all day. He's getting weaker. I can hear it in his cry. What if he gets dehydrated before morning? What if? Keep trying. Small amounts. Frequently. Every 15 minutes if you can. If he shows signs of severe dehydration, no tears when crying, no wet diapers for 6 hours, sunken fontanelle, extreme lethargy, take him to the emergency room immediately. Okay. Thank you. She hung up, kept trying, kept failing. My son kept screaming, and I sat in my study 3 floors below, frozen, paralyzed by a toxic combination of fear and shame and the certainty that if I went up there, I'd only make things worse. That he'd sense my presence and cry harder. That I'd hold him and feel nothing but the weight of Gabriella's absence. That I'd fail him again. So I did what I'd been doing for 6 months. I watched through a camera and did absolutely nothing. At 2:30 a.m., the screaming suddenly stopped. I checked the camera feed immediately, heart pounding. The nursery was dark. She must have finally gotten him to sleep. But something felt wrong. The silence felt too heavy, too complete. At 2:45 a.m., I couldn't take it anymore. Couldn't shake the feeling that something was happening up there. Something important. Something that required me to actually be a father instead of a ghost haunting his own house. I left my study and climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor where the nursery was. Moved quietly through the dark hallway. The house was silent except for the sound of my footsteps on hardwood and my heartbeat in my ears. I told myself I was just checking, making sure everything was okay. That I'd look through the crack in the door, confirm my son was sleeping, and go back downstairs without disturbing anyone. The nursery door was open about 6 inches. The room was dark except for the soft warm glow of the night light shaped like a crescent moon that Amara had bought. And that's when I saw her, sitting in the rocking chair by the window, the chair Gabriella and I had picked out together when we were furnishing the nursery. The chair where my wife had planned to nurse our son in the middle of the night while I brought her water and told her she was beautiful. Amara's shirt was unbuttoned completely. My 6-month-old son was pressed against her bare chest, skin to skin. His tiny mouth latched onto her dark brown breast. Drinking, his little hand resting against her skin. His eyes closed. His body finally relaxed. And she was crying. Silent tears streaming down her face in the moonlight. Her eyes were closed. Head tilted back against the chair. Lips moving in a whispered prayer I could barely hear. Please let this be enough. Please let him be okay. Please don't let him suffer anymore. I know this is wrong. I know I shouldn't. I know I'm crossing every line. But he's starving and I can't. I can't watch him die when I have the ability to help him. Please forgive me. Please. My hand went to the gun at my waist. Pure instinct. 20 years of training screaming that this was a violation. A breach. A line crossed that couldn't be uncrossed. My fingers wrapped around the grip. Started to draw it. And then I saw my son's face. Peaceful for the first time in 3 days. Drinking steadily. Getting the nourishment his body desperately needed. Alive because this woman was literally giving him her own body to survive. I must have made a sound. Stepped on a floorboard that creaked. Something. Because her eyes flew open and met mine across the dark room. Terror. Absolute terror flooded her beautiful face. She saw my hand on my gun. Saw the expression I knew was on my face. The cold fury I'd perfected over 2 decades of making men beg for mercy they'd never receive. Mr. Kane, she started, voice shaking. My son immediately started crying when he felt her tense. Desperately reaching for her. Trying to latch back on. She tried to cover herself with one hand while holding him with the other. But he was screaming now. That same terrible scream from before. Hungry. Hurting. Dying. Please, she whispered. And I could see her whole body trembling. Please don't take him from me. I know how this looks. I know what you think. But I swear to God, I wasn't trying to. He was starving and I couldn't. You're breastfeeding my son. My voice came out cold, controlled, deadly. The voice I used right before I made someone disappear. I know. I'm so sorry. This is the first time, I swear. I would never. Tears streaming down her face now. He wouldn't eat. For 3 days. Nothing was working. He was getting weaker and I was so scared and I didn't know what else to do. So you decided to feed him from your body? A child that isn't yours? Without asking. Without telling me. My hand was still on my gun. I hadn't drawn it. But I hadn't let go either. I wasn't thinking clearly. I couldn't watch him suffer anymore when I had the milk and he needed food and I thought just this once. Just to get him through the night until we could get him to the doctor. Her voice broke completely. My son was screaming louder now. That desperate, hungry scream that cut through everything. She looked down at him, then back at me, and I saw her make a decision. saw her spine straighten despite her fear. "I know you could kill me right now," she said quietly. "I know what you are, what you do. I've seen the guards, the guns, the way people look at you. I'm not stupid." She pulled my son back to her chest. He latched immediately, stopped crying, started drinking. "But he's starving, and I have milk. And I'd rather die helping him than live knowing I let him suffer because I was too afraid to do what needed to be done. So if you're going to shoot me, but let me feed him first." And she turned her body slightly away from me, shielding him with her own flesh, ready to take a bullet to protect my son. This woman who'd been working for me for 6 months, who I'd barely spoken to, who I'd treated like furniture, was ready to die for him. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, hand on my gun, watching her feed my child while waiting for me to kill her for it. And then I did something I hadn't done in 20 years. I let go of the gun, took my hand away slowly, deliberately, let it fall to my side. "You said you have the milk," I said, voice rough. "What does that mean?" She looked up, surprised I hadn't shot her, still shaking. "I had a baby 15 months ago. I was still nursing when I started working for you. I've been pumping and donating to the milk bank, but I still produce. When he wouldn't take formula, I thought if he wouldn't drink from a bottle, maybe breast milk directly, maybe mine." She couldn't finish, started crying harder. My son was drinking peacefully now, eyes closed, tiny hand against her skin, completely content for the first time in days. "Where's your baby?" The question came out harsher than I meant it. She flinched like I'd hit her. "I don't have her anymore." "What does that mean?" "It means I gave her up." Her voice barely a whisper. "I gave birth to her 15 months ago and I placed her for adoption, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done, and I think about her every single second of every single day, and when I hold your son sometimes I pretend." She stopped, covered her mouth with her free hand, trying not to completely fall apart. "You pretend what?" I stepped closer, into the room, away from the door. "Nothing. I'm sorry. This was completely inappropriate. I know that. I'll pack my things in the morning. You pretend what, Amara?" I was standing right in front of her now, looking down at her in that rocking chair, at my son peaceful in her arms, at this woman who was breaking apart. She finally looked up at me, those beautiful dark eyes swimming with tears and pain and fear and love. "That she didn't have to go," she whispered. "That I got to keep her. That I was enough. That when I hold your son and feed him and sing to him and love him, sometimes I close my eyes and pretend he's mine. That I'm his mother. That I got to keep my baby." Fresh tears spilling over. "I know that's wrong. I know it's crossing boundaries. I know he's not mine and never will be. But he needed me tonight and I couldn't let him starve when I had the ability to help him. Even if it costs me everything. Even if you hate me for it. He deserved to be fed." The anger I'd felt walking in, the instinctive rage at someone touching what was mine without permission, was completely gone, replaced by something I couldn't name, something that felt like my chest was being ripped open. "Why did you give her up?" I asked quietly. She wiped her eyes, still holding my son carefully. "Because I was 25 and single and working 3 jobs just to afford a studio apartment in a bad neighborhood. Because her father was married with 2 kids and wanted nothing to do with us. Threatened me when I told him I was pregnant. Said he'd destroy my life if I ever contacted him again." Her voice was steady now, hollow, like she'd told this story before and removed all the emotion from it to survive. "Because I loved her enough to want better for her than what I could provide. Because I wanted her to have a yard and 2 parents and stability and opportunities, and everything I couldn't give her no matter how hard I worked." She looked down at my son. "I found a family through an adoption agency. Good people. A couple who'd been trying to have a baby for 8 years. Decent jobs. Beautiful home in Evanston. So much love to give. I met them when I was 5 months pregnant. Got to know them. Trusted them. Believed they'd give her the life she deserved." Tears dripping onto my son's blanket now. "And when she was born, when they put her in my arms for the first time, I held her for exactly 2 hours. Memorized her face. Counted her fingers and toes. breathed in her smell, told her I loved her more than anything in the world, and this was the hardest thing I'd ever do, but I was doing it because she deserved better than I could give her. Her voice broke. And then I gave her to them. Watched them walk out of the hospital with my baby. Went home to an empty apartment and cried for 3 days straight. Open adoption, so I get pictures and updates every month. She's happy, healthy, thriving, learning to talk. Calls them mama and daddy. She's perfect. She looked up at me. But I'm not okay. I wake up every morning reaching for her. I see babies everywhere and wonder what she's doing. If she's sleeping through the night. If she's started walking. If she likes music. If she'd recognize my voice. If she knows somewhere deep down that I think about her every second. And then you came here, I said softly. And then I came here. She smiled sadly. And your son needed someone. And I thought maybe this was God giving me a second chance. Not to replace her. I could never replace her. But to pour all this love I have nowhere to put into another child who needed it. Even if he wasn't mine. Even if I was just the hired help. At least I could matter to someone. At least all this milk my body keeps producing could feed a baby who needed it instead of just going to strangers. At least I could do for him what I couldn't do for her. She looked at my son, still drinking peacefully. So yes, I crossed every professional boundary that exists. I fed your son from my body without permission. And I'd do it again. Because he was starving and I had milk, and sometimes love means breaking the rules to save someone. The words hung in the air between us. This woman had given up her own child because she loved her too much to keep her in poverty. Then spent the last 6 months loving mine while I'd barely looked at him. And tonight, when he was dying, she'd literally given him her body to survive. I walked over to the dresser. Pulled my gun from the holster. She tensed, breath catching, body curling protectively around my son, ready to shield him even now. I set the gun on the dresser carefully, deliberately, stepped away from it. I'm not going to hurt you, Amara. My hand was shaking as I placed the weapon down. 20 years I'd held that gun steady while killing men who'd betrayed me. But kneeling in front of the woman who'd saved my son, I couldn't stop trembling. I'm trying to figure out how to thank you. She blinked, shocked. Thank me? For this? For him? For everything? I gestured helplessly. You think I haven't noticed? That I'm so checked out I don't see what you do for him? I stepped closer, knelt down in front of the rocking chair so I was looking up at her. At this woman who'd become everything to my son while I'd been too broken to try. I've watched you, Amara. On the security cameras. Through cracked doors. I've seen you sing to him at 4 a.m. when you think no one's listening. I've seen you read him poetry like he's the most important audience in the world. I've seen you cry when he cries. Turn down every day off to stay with him. Give up your own life to love a child who isn't yours. My voice cracked. I've seen you love my son more in 6 months than I've managed to since the day he was born. More than I've been able to since Gabriella died. You saved him. You're the reason he's alive. You're the reason he's thriving. You're the reason my house doesn't feel like a tomb anymore. She was crying silently. Mr. Kane. Vincent. My name is Vincent. I took a shaky breath. And I need to tell you something. When Gabriella died, I died too. I looked at our son and all I could see was what I'd lost. What loving someone cost me. Every time I looked at him, I saw her. Saw the future we'd never have. Saw my own failure to protect her. I had to stop. Swallow past the lump in my throat. So I shut down. Hired people to handle him. Kept my distance. Told myself it was better that way. That he didn't need a father who resented him. That he was better off with professionals who could actually care. I looked at my son, still peaceful in her arms. But you didn't let him suffer for my weakness. You showed up every single day and gave him what I couldn't. Love. Tension. Your whole heart. You treated him like he was yours. Like he mattered more than anything. I met her eyes. And tonight, when he was starving and in pain, you literally gave him your body to keep him alive. You were willing to die to protect him from me. From what you thought I'd do. I reached out slowly, carefully, and touched my son's tiny hand. He wrapped his fingers around mine instinctively. Held on. So no, you're not the hired help. You're not crossing boundaries. You're not doing anything wrong. My voice broke completely. You're being the mother he needs. The mother Gabriella would have been if she'd lived. You're saving him, and I'm trying to figure out how to pay you enough to never leave us. Because my son needs you. I looked up at her. Because I need you too. The confession hung in the air. Raw. Vulnerable. Everything I'd sworn I'd never be again after Gabriella died. Amara was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Vincent, I can't. This isn't appropriate, you're my employer. I know. I know all the reasons this is wrong. The power imbalance. The professional boundaries. All of it. I stood up, hands still holding my son's tiny fingers. But I'm not asking you for anything inappropriate. I'm just telling you the truth. You brought life back into this house. You made me want to be better, to try, to be the father Gabriella would have wanted me to be instead of the ghost I've been. I looked at her, really looked at her. This beautiful, broken, strong woman who'd sacrificed everything for children who weren't hers. Can I hold him? Her breath caught. Of course. He's your son. I know. But I haven't held him in 4 months. Not since he was 2 months old. I don't even know if he'll remember me. If he'll let me. He will, she said softly. He's been waiting for you. I promise. She carefully detached him from her breast, buttoned her shirt with shaking hands, stood slowly from the rocking chair, and placed my 6-month-old son in my arms for the first time since I'd walked away from him. He was heavier than I remembered. Warmer. More solid. Real in a way he hadn't been when I'd held him in the hospital with Gabriella's blood still on my hands. His eyes opened slowly, focused on my face. And instead of crying like I'd expected, like I'd feared, he made a small cooing sound, reached up with one tiny hand, touched my face. Hi, buddy, I whispered, and my voice broke completely. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I've been gone. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. But I'm here now. Promise. I'm here. Tears streaming down my face. 20 years since I'd cried. 6 months since I'd held my son. And I was falling apart in the middle of the nursery at 3 a.m. Amara was watching us with tears in her own eyes, smiling despite the fear that was probably still coursing through her. He knows you, she said softly. I talk about you all the time. Tell him how strong his daddy is. How much his daddy loves him even when it's hard to show it. How proud he's going to be when he grows up and realizes what an incredible man his father is. I'm not incredible, I said, unable to look away from my son. I've been awful. I abandoned him. I let you do everything while I hid. You've been grieving, she interrupted gently. There's a difference. Vincent, you lost the love of your life in the worst way possible. You're allowed to fall apart. You're allowed to not be okay. She stepped closer, touched my arm carefully. And for what it's worth, I think Gabriella would understand. I think she'd forgive you. I think she'd want you to forgive yourself and be present for your son now instead of punishing yourself for the past. I couldn't hold it together anymore. Standing there holding my son with this woman's hand on my arm, I started sobbing. Deep, shaking sobs that felt like they were tearing me apart from the inside. All the grief I'd been holding back for 6 months. All the guilt. All the shame. All the love I'd been too afraid to feel. Amara didn't say anything. Just stood there with her hand on my arm, grounding me, while I broke apart. And my son, this tiny human I'd been avoiding, just watched me with his mother's eyes and didn't cry, just held my finger and let me feel. When I could finally breathe again, when the sobs had faded to shaky breaths, I looked at Amara. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Be his father. I don't know how to feed him or change him or make him stop crying. I don't know his schedule or what he likes or how to. I don't know anything. The admission cost me everything. Will you teach me? Her smile was like sunrise. You already are his father, Vincent. You just forgot for a little while. But yes, I'll teach you. We can learn together. Together. Together, she confirmed. If you want. I'm not trying to replace Gabriella. I could never. But if you want help learning how to be present for him, I'm here. For as long as you need me. What if I need you forever? The words came out before I could stop them. She looked at me, something shifting in her eyes. Then I guess I'm not going anywhere. And that's how it started. The two of us standing in a dark nursery at 3:30 in the morning. Him holding his son for the first time in months. Her teaching him how to be present. Both of them broken. Both of them healing. Both of them finding something neither expected. That night, I didn't go back to my study. I stayed in the nursery, held my son while Amara showed me everything she'd learned in 6 months. How to hold him so he felt secure. How to tell the difference between his hungry cry and his tired cry and his something's wrong cry. How to burp him properly. How to change a diaper without getting peed on. He likes it when you sing, she said, demonstrating. Doesn't matter if you're good. He just likes your voice. And he sleeps better on his left side. And when he's fussy, if you walk him by the window where he can see the trees moving, he calms down. She knew everything about him. Every preference. Every quirk. Every tiny detail. Because she'd paid attention while I'd hidden. He's beautiful, I said, watching him sleep in my arms. He looks like Gabriella. He has her eyes, she agreed. But he has your jawline. And your stubborn streak when he doesn't want to do something. She smiled. And your protective instinct. If I set him down when he wants to be held, he gets this look on his face like you get when someone crosses you. Pure indignation. I laughed. Actually laughed. For the first time since the funeral. I do that. Constantly. She was smiling too now. Relaxing. The fear from earlier finally fading. It's actually kind of adorable. On him. On you it's terrifying. We stayed up until sunrise. Taking turns holding him. Talking quietly so we didn't wake him. Learning each other. Really learning each other. Not employer and employee. Not stranger and stranger. Just two broken people finding common ground in loving the same child. Tell me about your daughter, I said around 5 a.m. when the sky was just starting to lighten. If you're comfortable. She stiffened slightly. Vincent. Please, I want to know. You know everything about my pain. Let me know yours. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone. Opened her photos. Showed me. Picture after picture of the most beautiful little girl I'd ever seen. Brown skin like her mother's. Bright eyes. Huge smile. Playing with blocks. Sitting in a high chair covered in sweet potatoes. Taking wobbly steps between two women who were beaming at her. Her name is Zoe, Amara said softly. At least that's what her mother's named her. She's 15 months old now. Walking. Starting to say words. Her favorite food is mashed sweet potatoes. She loves music. She's perfect. Her voice was thick with emotion. Do you regret it? I asked carefully. Giving her up? Every single day, she said immediately. And never. She looked at me. I regret that I wasn't in a position to keep her. I regret that someone else gets to see her first steps. Hear her first real words, watch her grow up. I regret that she'll never call me mama. That I'm just the woman who gave birth to her in her story. Tears in her eyes. But I don't regret choosing what was best for her over what I wanted. That's what love is, right? Putting someone else's needs above your own desires. Sacrifice. I thought about Gabriella. How she'd sacrificed her life to give our son his. Yeah, I said quietly. It is. Her mothers are incredible, Amara continued, scrolling through more photos. Sarah and Michelle. They send me updates every month. Pictures. Videos sometimes. I have a whole album. They're everything I wanted for her. Stable. Loving. Present. They take her to the park and read to her and sing to her and she's so loved. She smiled through her tears. Sometimes I imagine alternate timelines. Where I kept her. Where I somehow made it work. Where I got to be her mom instead of just the woman who carried her. But then I look at these pictures. At how happy she is. How healthy. How thrived. And I know I made the right choice. She wiped her eyes. She deserves the life they can give her. She deserves two parents who are home for dinner. who can afford dance classes and good schools and college funds, who can give her stability and security and everything I couldn't provide no matter how many jobs I worked. You would have been an incredible mother, I said firmly. You are an incredible mother. My son is proof. I touched her hand. What you did, giving her up because you loved her too much to keep her in a bad situation, that's not weakness, Amara. That's the strongest thing I've ever heard. Most people couldn't make that choice. Couldn't love someone enough to let them go. Fresh tears streamed down her face. Thank you for saying that. I mean it. You're extraordinary. And I did mean it. This woman had more strength in her little finger than most men I knew had in their entire bodies. She'd survived heartbreak and kept going. Kept loving. Kept giving. Kept showing up for children who needed her even when her own heart was shattered. The sun was fully up now, streaming through the nursery windows. My son was still asleep in my arms. Peaceful. Federal loved. And I was sitting next to a woman I'd ignored for 6 months, feeling more alive than I had since Gabriella died. I should let you sleep, Amara said quietly. You've been up all night. I can take him. Can you stay? The question came out more vulnerable than I intended. Just for a little while longer. I'm not ready to. I don't want to be alone with this yet. She smiled. Of course. As long as you need. And she stayed. Sat in the rocking chair while I held my son in the other chair Gabriella and I had bought. Watched the sunrise together. Talked about nothing and everything. And somewhere between exhaustion and hope, we became something neither of us had planned. A team. Partnership. The beginning of something that looked almost like family. The next few weeks were different. I didn't go back to hiding in my study. Didn't return to the ghost I'd been. I started showing up. For morning feedings before Amara arrived at 6 a.m. For evening routines before she left at 10 p.m. For diaper changes and tummy time and the 1,000 tiny moments that make up caring for an infant. Amara was patient with me. Never judged when I did things wrong. Just showed me gently how to do them better. Support his head more, there you go. Perfect. He likes it when you make eye contact while feeding him. Makes him feel connected. If he arches his back like that, he's probably got gas. Try this position. She taught me everything. And slowly, carefully, I started falling in love with my son. Really falling in love. Not the abstract love you feel for a concept of a child, but the specific, overwhelming love you feel for this child. The way he grabbed my finger with his whole fist. The way he'd track my face when I walked by. The way he'd calm down when I held him just right. The way he was starting to smile, real smiles that lit up his whole face. And somewhere in those late-night feedings and early morning diaper changes, I started falling for Amara too. I didn't mean to, didn't plan it, but how could I not? She was beautiful, yes, stunning in a way that made my chest tight. But more than that, she was kind, selfless, strong in ways I'd never seen. She'd given up her own child because she loved her enough to want better. Then poured all that love into mine. She sang old Motown while making breakfast. Quoted Maya Angelou while folding tiny onesies. Cried during Pixar movies we'd watch after my son went to sleep. Laughed at terrible jokes. Got passionate about social justice and childhood development and the importance of representation in children's books. She was real in a way no one in my world had been since Gabriella. Didn't fear me. Didn't want anything from me except to be allowed to love my son. Called me out when I was being distant or cold or hiding behind my walls. Made me want to be better. Made me want to try. 2 months after that night in the nursery, things shifted. It was subtle at first. Hands touching when we passed my son back and forth, lingering a second longer than necessary. Eye contact that lasted too long and said too much. The way she'd smile when I successfully got him to sleep, like I'd accomplished something miraculous. The way my chest would tighten when I'd hear her singing in another room. The way we'd both reach for the last cup of coffee at the same time and laugh. The way being near her made me feel alive again. One night after we'd put him down, we were sitting in the living room. Me on one end of the couch, her on the other. Maintaining proper distance like we'd been doing for weeks. Like we were both afraid of what might happen if we got too close. What's your favorite book? I asked, just wanting to keep her talking. Keep her here. East of Eden, she said immediately. Steinbeck. You. The Count of Monte Cristo. Dumas. She smiled. That makes perfect sense. What's that supposed to mean? You're a man who understands both revenge and redemption. The need for vengeance and the hope for something better. The darkness and the light. She saw me. Really saw me. What do you want, Amara? I asked quietly. Long-term. Dreams. Goals. If you could have anything in the world. She thought about it. Curled her legs under her on the couch. I want to open a childcare center. For single mothers. Women who are where I was, trying to keep their babies but struggling to afford quality care. Sliding scale fees. Nobody turned away. Safe. Loving environment where kids can thrive and mothers can work without worrying. Her eyes lit up when she talked about it. I want to help women who are one paycheck away from losing everything. Who love their children but can't afford the $2,000 a month daycare's charge. Who are doing everything right and still can't catch a break. That's beautiful, I said honestly. It's a fantasy, she said with a sad smile. Those places cost millions to start. Millions more to run sustainably. I'll never have that kind of money. I'm barely paying off my student loans. But it's nice to dream. What if you did have it? She looked at me. What? The money. What if someone funded it? Set up a trust. Gave you the resources to make it happen. Her eyes went wide. Vincent, no. Why not? I have more money than I'll ever spend. More than I know what to do with. Blood money from deals I'm not proud of. Why not use it for something that actually matters? Something that helps people instead of hurting them. That's too much. I can't accept. You're not accepting charity, I interrupted. I'm investing in a good cause. You'd run it, build it, make it yours. Hire the staff. Choose the curriculum. Help the mothers. I'd just be the silent partner who writes the checks. I leaned forward. Let me do this, Amara. Let me use my resources for something good. Let me help you help them. She was crying now. Why would you do that for me? Because you deserve to see your dreams come true. Because you've given my son everything and asked for nothing in return. Because you're the best person I've ever met and the world needs more of what you have to offer. I paused. Almost said it. Almost told her I was falling in love with her. But fear stopped me. Because you matter to me. More than you know. That's when she kissed me. Just leaned across the space between us and pressed her lips to mine. Soft, sweet, tentative. Like she was afraid I'd push her away. I didn't push her away. I pulled her closer. Kissed her properly. Let myself feel everything I'd been holding back for 2 months. The want. The need. The overwhelming sense that this woman was putting me back together piece by piece. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Her hand was on my chest. Mine was in her hair. The distance between us completely gone. I'm sorry, she gasped. That was completely inappropriate. You're my employer. There's a power dynamic. I shouldn't have. Don't apologize. Pulled her back. Kissed her again. Softer this time. Don't you dare apologize for that. Vincent, this is wrong. I work for you. You could fire me. I'm vulnerable here. I know. I know all the reasons this is a terrible idea. The power imbalance. The professional boundaries. The fact that you're dependent on this job. I touched her face. But I don't care. Do you? She bit her lip. I should care. Every logical part of my brain is screaming that this is dangerous. That falling for my employer is the stupidest thing I could do. That I'm risking everything. My job, my stability, my ability to see him. But I haven't felt this way since before Zoe was born, she whispered. Since before everything fell apart. You make me want to hope again. To believe I deserve good things. To imagine a future that's more than just surviving. She touched my face with trembling fingers. And that terrifies me. Me too. I caught her hand. Held it against my cheek. I thought I'd never feel anything again after Gabriella. Thought that part of me died on the operating table with her. that I'd spend the rest of my life going through the motions. Empty. I looked at her. But you brought me back. You and our... I stopped. Caught myself. My son. You brought me back to life. She caught the slip. Our... I didn't mean... Say it again, she whispered. Please. I took a breath. Our son. Because that's what it feels like now. When I see you with him, when I watch you love him, it feels like we're raising him together. Like you're not just his nanny. Like you're his... mother. The word hung between us. Dangerous. Beautiful. Impossible. True. Yes. Her breath caught. Tears filled her eyes. I love him like he's mine, Vincent. I know he's not. I know Gabriella is his mother, and I would never, ever try to replace her or diminish what she meant to him. But when I hold him, when I feed him, when I watch him sleep, her voice broke. I love him the way I love Zoe. Completely. Forever. Like he's part of my soul. Like I'd die to protect him. I know, I said softly. I see it. Every day. And Amara. I wiped her tears with my thumbs. Gabriella would be grateful. She'd want our son to be loved this much. To have someone like you in his life. Someone who shows up and gives everything and asks for nothing. I kissed her forehead. You're not replacing her. You're honoring her. By giving him what she can't. By being present. By loving him the way she would have if she'd lived. She kissed me again. Deeper this time. Urgent. Like she was drowning and I was air. And for the first time since Gabriella died, I let myself imagine a future. A real one. With Amara in it. With our son, yes, Oyoris, growing up loved by both of us. With something that looked like family. Like healing. Like hope. We kept it quiet for a while after that. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't change anything outwardly. Just existed in this bubble where we were falling in love and becoming a family in secret. Stolen kisses when my son was napping. Held hands under the table during dinner. Whispered conversations after he went to sleep. Learning each other. Choosing each other. Building something neither of us had planned but both of us needed. My men noticed something was different. Marco mentioned it carefully one afternoon. Boss, you seem better, lighter, more present. I am, I said simply. The nanny, Amara, she's good for you. For him. Marco chose his words carefully. Yes. Boss, I have to ask. Is this going somewhere? I looked at him. What do you mean? I mean, I see the way you look at her. The way you talk about her. Ask about her schedule. Make sure she's comfortable. Protected. Boss, I'm not judging. But I need to know. Is this becoming something more than professional? I didn't answer right away. Then maybe. Probably. Yes. I'm happy for you, Marco said carefully. You deserve happiness. She seems like a good woman. But boss? But what? She's not like us. She's not part of this world. She doesn't know what you really do. What we really do. Who you really are underneath the businessman facade. He met my eyes. If this gets serious, she'll find out eventually. And when she does, she might run. She might take your son and disappear. She might... I know the risks, Marco. And if your enemies figure out she matters to you, if they use her to get to you, if they threaten her or your son to force your hand. I thought about that. Lost sleep over it. Then I'll protect her. Both of them. The way I should have been doing all along. And if that's not enough? If someone gets through. Marco's voice was gentle but firm. If loving her puts her in danger, what will you do? I didn't have an answer for that. Not yet. But I would. I had to. 3 months after that first kiss. On a Tuesday afternoon in late spring. Everything shattered. I came home from a meeting with my accountant to find Amara standing in the living room by the window. Holding my son. Her face was pale. Terrified. Shaking. What's wrong? I asked immediately, every protective instinct firing. Is he okay? Are you hurt? We're fine, she said. But her voice was shaking. Vincent, we need to talk. Dread pooled in my stomach. About what? About who you are. What you do. What you really are. She turned to face me fully. I could see she'd been crying. A man came to the door today. About an hour ago. Said he had a delivery. When I opened it, there was a package. No return address. Just a file. My blood went cold. What kind of file? The kind that shows me exactly what kind of business you run. Her voice was barely controlled. The kind with photos, police reports, witness statements, details of things you've done, people you've hurt, people you've... Her voice broke. Tell me it's not true. Please. Tell me you're not. Tell me you don't. Amara? Are you in the Mafia? The question hit like a bullet. I could lie. Should lie. Protect her with plausible deniability. But I'd never lied to her. Couldn't start now. Yes. She made a sound like I'd gutted her. Took a step back. Oh my God. Let me explain. Explain what? Her voice rose. My son started fussing in her arms, sensing her distress. That you've been lying to me? That I've been falling in love with a criminal? That I've been letting a murderer around your son? Our son! The words exploded out of me before I could stop them. He's ours, Amara. You said it yourself. You love him like he's yours. You've been his mother in every way that matters. Don't run from that now because you found out the truth about me. The truth is you're dangerous. She was crying now, clutching my son tighter. The truth is someone sent me that file as a threat, to let me know they know about me, about us, about him. Being with you puts us in danger. She was right. I knew she was right. The file was a message. I know what matters to you. I can take it away. I can protect you. How? She was shaking. By killing more people? By dragging us deeper into your world? By making more enemies who'll send more threats? Amara, please. I read the file, Vincent. All of it. The weapons deals. The money laundering. The witness who disappeared before he could testify. The rival who was found in the river with his throat cut. The cop who got too close to your operation and ended up dead in a random mugging. Tears streaming down her face. Is it true? Did you do those things? I could lie. Make excuses. Spin it. Yes. She actually stumbled. Like the confirmation was a physical blow. Oh God. Oh God. It's not that simple. You killed people, Vincent. Plural. Multiple people. And you've been around him. She couldn't even say it. I need you to leave. Right now. Get out. Amara. Get out. She was sobbing now. I can't. I can't look at you right now. Can't. Just go. Please. Just go. I stood there frozen, wanting to fight, to explain, to make her understand. But her face was terror and heartbreak, and I knew if I pushed now, I'd lose her forever. So I left, walked out of my own house, got in my car, drove, and tried to figure out how to save the only family I had left. The next morning, Marco was waiting in my study when I got back. Boss, we have a situation. My blood ran cold. What kind of situation? Someone tried to breach the perimeter last night. 2 a.m. Got as far as the garden before my men stopped him. My hands clenched into fists. Where is he? Dead. Resisted. But boss. Marco's face was grim. He had a photo. Of her. Of your son. Together in the nursery. Professional quality. Taken with a telephoto lens from outside the property. He slid the photo across the desk. I picked it up. Amara holding my son by the window where she always stood to calm him down. Where she'd been standing the first night I saw her. Someone had been watching. For weeks. Maybe months. There's more. Marco handed me another photo. This one had been altered. Crosshairs drawn over their faces. Both of them. Red excess over their hearts. A message scrawled on the back in blocky letters. Tick-tock. The mug of coffee I'd been holding slipped from my fingers. Shattered on the floor. Just like my illusion that I could keep them safe while staying in this life. Just like everything I'd been trying to build. Who sent them? My voice was ice. We're working on it. But boss. Marco met my eyes. This isn't going to stop. You've made too many enemies. Someone's figured out they matter to you. That she matters. That he matters. And they're going to use that. They're going to keep coming until they find a way through. Then I'll kill every single one of them. And more will come. And more after that. Marco's voice was gentle but firm. Boss, you can't protect them and stay in this life. You have to choose. The empire or the family. You can't have both. I drove back to the house that afternoon. Let myself in quietly. Found Amara in the nursery, packing. Tears streaming down her face. Throwing clothes into a suitcase like she was running. Like she'd already made her decision. What are you doing? I asked from the doorway. She jumped. Spun around. Vincent. I didn't hear you. What are you doing? I repeated. Packing. I gave my notice to Marco this morning. 2 weeks. Then I'm gone. Each word was a knife to my chest. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. She wouldn't look at me. Just kept throwing things in the suitcase. Why? Because I'm dangerous? Because you're scared? Because I love you. She whirled around. Tears streaming. Voice breaking. Because I'm in love with you and your son and this life we've been building, and it terrifies me because I already lost one child and I can't. I can't lose another. Can't lose him. I can't lose you. She was sobbing now. So I have to leave. Before I get so attached that losing you destroys me completely. Before something happens to him because of me. Because of us. Before I wake up one morning and you're dead or he's been taken or someone uses us to hurt you, and it's all my fault for staying. What if you didn't have to lose us? I stepped into the room. She froze. What? What if I left? The business. The violence. The danger. All of it. Her eyes went wide. Vincent, you can't. What if I walked away? Retired. Gave the whole empire to Marco. Became the kind of man who could give you and our son a normal life. A safe life. The life you deserve. You can't just walk away from the Mafia. I can if I want to. I built this empire. I can hand it off to someone I trust. I stepped closer. Amara. I've spent 20 years building power I don't even want anymore. Making money I'll never spend. Hurting people because that's what was expected of me. Being someone I hate because I thought that's what strength looked like. I took her hands. But you taught me different. You taught me that strength is showing up. Loving people even when it's hard. Sacrificing what you want for what they need. You're the strongest person I've ever met. And none of my power, none of my money, none of my empire matters compared to this. To you. To him. To us. You'd really give it all up? For us. In a heartbeat. I meant it. We'll move. Leave Chicago. Change our names. Start over somewhere safe. I'll be Vincent Matthews, stay-at-home dad. You'll be Amara Matthews, director of the best childcare center in the city. We'll raise our son together far away from this world. Give him everything Gabriella wanted for him. Everything you wanted for Zoe. Everything we both deserve. She was crying harder now. You'd do that? Really? I'd do anything for you. Both of you. I pulled her close. Amara, you're my family now. You and him. You're what matters. You're my future. Everything else is just noise. I kissed her forehead. So don't leave. Please. Stay. Let me be the man you deserve. Let me give you the life you should have had. Let me prove that monsters can change if they have the right reason. She looked up at me with those beautiful eyes I'd fallen in love with. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Then ask me. She smiled through her tears. If you're going to upend your whole life, do it right. I understood. Pulled back slightly. Got down on one knee right there in the nursery surrounded by half-packed suitcases. Amara Williams. Will you marry me? Will you be my wife and his mother and my partner in whatever comes next? My voice broke. Let me give you the life you gave up for Zoe. Let me give you the family you deserve. Let me spend every day for the rest of my life proving you didn't make a mistake saving us. Proving that choosing me, choosing us was worth it. Tears streaming down her beautiful face. Yes, God, yes. Yes. She pulled me up, kissed me like she was drowning and I was air, like I'd just given her everything she'd ever wanted. Our son started crying from his crib. Perfect timing. We both laughed through our tears. He has terrible timing, she said. He has perfect timing, I corrected. Walked over and picked him up. He's reminding us what matters. That this right here is what we're fighting for. I looked at Amara, at the woman who'd saved us both. Family. That was 3 years ago. We left Chicago exactly 2 weeks later. New names, new city, new life. I transferred the entire empire to Marco in a meeting that lasted 6 hours and cost me nothing that mattered. He runs it now, sends me updates I don't read. Money I donate to Amara's causes. We live in Portland, Oregon now. Vincent and Amara Matthews, former businessman and child development specialist. Current stay-at-home dad and nonprofit director. Normal people living a normal life. Amara opened her childcare center 18 months ago. Hope House, named after the thing that saved us both. Sliding scale childcare for single mothers. Nobody turned away. 15 employees now. 65 kids. Everything she dreamed and more. Our son is 3.5 years old. Calls her mama. Calls me dada. Has no idea his life started with tragedy because all he knows is love. Laughter. 2 parents who show up every single day. Security. Safety. Everything children deserve. 6 months ago, Amara gave birth to our daughter. We named her Hope, because that's what she is. Living proof that broken people can heal. That second chances are real. That love is worth every risk. Zoe's mothers, Sarah and Michelle, agreed to let us meet her once a year. Open adoption arrangement we honor religiously. She's 4 years old now. Beautiful, smart, happy, thriving with her moms in Evanston. She calls Amara her tummy mommy and lights up when she sees her. Gets to know her baby sister. Asks when she can visit again. It's bittersweet, complicated, beautiful. Amara cries every time we leave. But she also smiles. Because Zoe is happy. Loved. Exactly what Amara wanted for her. And knowing that makes the sacrifice worth it. This morning I woke up to the sound of Amara in the nursery. Breastfeeding Hope while our son climbed into bed between us asking for pancakes. This life, this simple, ordinary, beautiful life, is everything I never knew I needed. Everything I thought died with Gabriella. Everything I didn't think I deserved. And it started because I walked into a nursery at 3 a.m. and found a woman willing to sacrifice everything to save my child. A woman who loved him enough to risk her life. Who loved me enough to stay when she should have run. Who taught me that strength isn't violence. It's showing up. It's being present. It's choosing love even when it's hard. I thought I'd lost my capacity to love when Gabriella died. Thought that part of me was buried with her. That I'd spend the rest of my life empty. Going through motions. Existing but not living. But Amara taught me something my father never could. Something Gabriella would have wanted me to know. Love isn't finite. It doesn't run out when you lose someone. It doesn't die when your heart breaks. It grows. It multiplies. It makes room for more. Transforms you if you let it. Saves you if you're brave enough to accept it. And sometimes, if you're very, very lucky, it gives you a second chance you don't deserve but desperately need. I look at my family now. At Amara singing to Hope while our son helps make breakfast by throwing flour everywhere. At the life we've built from the ashes of who we used to be. At the happiness we chose instead of the pain we could have drowned in. And I know, Gabriella would approve. She'd want this for us. She'd want our son to have a mother who shows up. A father who's present. A sister who adores him. A life full of love instead of loss. She'd want me to be happy. To heal. To live instead of just surviving. And Amara. Beautiful. Strong. Extraordinary Amara. She made that possible. Not by replacing Gabriella. Never that. But by showing me that hearts broken open can hold more love than hearts that never shattered. That being vulnerable is stronger than being invincible. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is accept help from someone who sees you and stays anyway. If this story destroyed you the way it destroyed me, smash that like button right now. Subscribe to Mafia Romance Hub because we're bringing you more emotional Mafia stories that prove even the darkest hearts can find light. Drop a comment and tell me, would you give up everything for love? Would you sacrifice your empire for family? What would you do if saving the people you love meant becoming someone completely different? Share this with someone who needs to believe in second chances, who needs to know that broken doesn't mean beyond repair, that monsters can learn to be men, that love, real, sacrificial, transformative love, can save us all. Because sometimes the people we overlook are the ones who save us. Sometimes the help we need comes from the last person we'd expect. Sometimes healing happens in the middle of the night when we're too exhausted to keep our walls up. Sometimes love means giving up who you were to become who you're meant to be. See you in the next story. And seriously, keep those tissues close. You're going to need them.